Hello, I'm Ruben Cornell and welcome to this week's Samplecast. First off, a big thank you to everybody who's been subscribing on YouTube. We're now up to over 2,000 subscribers on there. That's just on YouTube. That's not counting everybody who listens to the podcast. There are hundreds of people who do that too. So thank you to everybody who's done that and has kept the show rolling and has kept us right up on top of those iTunes charts as well. That's really appreciated. There's lots to come in this show, including finally my review of Keyscape and also a fantastic tip at the end of the show. So let's get on with it. Our first roundup product this week is by Modwheel and it's Timphonia. It runs in the full version of Contact. It's a 3.5GB sample library based on timpani hits and effects. The library is divided into three distinct sections. So the first section is a kind of standard timpani setup with articulations including hits, flams and rolls. The second section is a kind of irregular timpani playing style with loops and patches based on brushes, hand hits and beating the timpanis with balls and sticks. And the third section of the library has atmospheres and pads which have been mangled from the original timp samples. This has been recorded in a pretty dry studio with room and close mics rather than in the standard setup of a concert hall, so this makes for a sound that's quite flexible in comparison to a lot of timpani libraries. Check it out at Modwheel. Audio Imperia have a new series that they've just started. It's the Traveller series and the first release is Aurus. This has been developed by composer and sound designer Dylan Jones. It runs in the full version of Contact and it's over 4GB in size. You've got 20 patches here, so that breaks down into 293 atmospheres and drones, 55 pads and synths, 81 pulses and 131 rhythms. The sounds are kind of barren, lonely and evoke the feeling of desolate landscapes, perfect for autumn and winter as we're coming into this season. The pack also contains unlocked WAV files too, so that's really handy for just dragging and dropping. You can get 10% off Audio Imperia by following the link in the description below, and you can check out more information at the Audio Imperia website. Next up, it's O'Malley's Irish Whistles from Xtant Audio. To be honest, I'm a bit of a sucker for folk music and this library is right up my alley. It's geared up exclusively for that, really. This runs in the full version of Contact. You've got 4 different whistle patches and also an additional patch featuring breath and finger noises. Within the interface you've got adjustable vibrato, there's expression controls and various articulations including legato, staccato and overblown playing too. The scripting automatically handles trills, taps, cuts and rolls, and it looks like a pretty interesting library with a little bit of work to get it to sound realistic. Check it out at the Xtant Audio website. Time and Space have started to develop some of their own libraries and this is one of them. It's Dark Ambience. This runs in Omnisphere 2. It's a sound pack featuring 100 different patches crafted by Ian Boddy, who's a celebrated sound designer and electronic musician. Each patch has been handcrafted from his collection of analog synths and vintage gear, and this is great for ambient music, electronica and soundtrack scoring as well. It's available exclusively from Time and Space. Check it out. You can't have failed to miss Orchestral Tool's new release. It's looming on the horizon and it's Berlin Brass. Now, this new library has been doing the rounds for quite a while online. They've been feeding us with interesting looking YouTube videos and I'm hoping to be able to do a review in next week's show before I go on my couple of weeks break. But in the meantime, here are the statistics for Berlin Brass. It runs in Contact Player and the full version of Contact. It's 320GB uncompressed. That's 185GB on your hard drive. 185GB, that is a large library. They've sampled 4 separate horns, 3 trumpets, 2 trombones, 1 bass trombone and a tuba, and these are all separate patches, but you've also got ensemble patches too. There are 3 different types of legato, 3 different types of attack as well, and there's loads of different articulations. There's a full list on the Orchestral Tools website which you can download as a PDF. I will let you know that there's no mutes included in this library. Apparently that's coming later on as an expansion. I'm really looking forward to trying this out. Have a look at the Orchestral Tools website for more information. Here we go, it's this week's big review, and finally I'm covering Keyscape from Spectrasonics. Now, normally I try and review libraries close to when they're released, however I received this probably about a month or 6 weeks ago, and to be honest I wasn't expecting much. I wasn't really impressed by the hype either. I have to say the initial video that Spectrasonics released just features a lot of keyboard players working with the sounds and kind of going, wow, that's amazing, that's so cool, which didn't give me much of an idea of how the library ran.
This is very, very cool.
It has cojones.
Love it. My God.
I've also been pretty skeptical in the past about how I would use this in my own work and whether it was really for me as a composer or whether it's more geared up for kind of live playing. So I wanted to give Keyscape its dues and see if after a longer period of time it's something that I would find useful. So let's see. Keyscape is the best part of $400 and it's been 10 years in the making. It runs in the Steam engine from Spectrasonics, and that engine also runs Trillion and Omnisphere too. So if you've got either of those libraries you shouldn't have too much trouble with the interface. Keyscape is available in two different versions. There's a 30GB light installation of just the core instruments, including the main pianos and electric pianos. And the full version is 77GB in size, which adds in the more kind of unusual toy pianos and more esoteric instruments. Although both versions do cost the same amount, just be aware of that. There's 36 different instruments that have been sampled here, from acoustic pianos to analog keyboards and digital keys, all the way through to lots of unusual instruments including the harmonium and toy piano. And each of these 36 instruments has loads of different variations, making up over 500 patches in total. Also included there are over 20 duo patches which combine two pianos in one patch. Now because this uses the Steam engine, you can also load those pianos into Omnisphere 2 once you've updated Omnisphere for compatibility. So despite my initial reservations, I did find a hell of a lot to love about this library. To begin with, the sounds, it really just sounds awesome for the most part. There are a few strange harmonic overtones in some of the instruments, although to be honest that might be authentic to those particular instruments for all I know, but 99.9% of the sounds and the playability is just great. Also, the ability to be able to tweak the sounds is huge. You've got a wonderfully laid out interface and that shows exactly what each dial and knob will do to the sound. If you've got any questions about how Keyscape works, the online manual is a good resource. It's also a good idea having it online. It means they can update things as they go along and update the product, which I'm sure they will do several times in its lifetime. I also like the info pane in the interface. Now this gives lots of interesting information about the particular instruments that you've loaded up. Playing with Keyscape in Omnisphere also gave me a real thrill. It was fantastic to load some Omnisphere presets and then go into the sound source menu and change those out for some of the electric and acoustic pianos. I had really, to be honest, a lot of fun for a few hours just doing that, regardless of creating the tones myself, just swapping things around and getting to know how the sounds worked within Omnisphere. That was fantastic. I have had the comment in the past that the reviews that I do don't contain a lot of the sounds of the products themselves, so I'm going to play a few of them here. Now for the cons of Keyscape. Well, I have to say I was a little bit put off before I even started with Keyscape because the download, installation and authorization system is a real pain. It's something that I had to refer to several times during the walkthroughs and kind of get more information about what I was doing wrong. You know, I'm pretty technical. I've installed a lot of products with no problems in the past, but this was a real pain in the butt. I would recommend that you buy the physical version of Keyscape if you can. That will alleviate the majority of these problems, I think. For a product called Keyscape, I also did expect a few more acoustic pianos. You've got two basically, the Yamaha C7 Grand and the upright piano. There's lots of tweakability with these pianos, as with all the patches, so you can make them sound like pretty much anything you want. But I was expecting more in terms of acoustic pianos, and I think this falls just slightly short of being a kind of exhaustive catalogue of keyboard instruments in that respect. Now, I don't know about you, but I think the Steam interface is starting to look perhaps a little bit long in the tooth these days. Maybe I'm just too used to seeing it, but I think Keyscape would have been a good opportunity to give that a refresh, so I'm a bit sad that Spectrasonics didn't do that. So overall, it's a little bit hard for me to know how to sum up Keyscape. Obviously, a huge amount of work has gone into making Keyscape what it is, and I can understand why the team is so proud of it. I can't help thinking that the hype surrounding Keyscape before its release was a little bit too much, so really anything that Spectrasonics released probably wasn't going to live up to what people had been hoping for. And Keyscape, if it had been released 10 years ago, really would have blown everybody away, and Spectrasonics would have been able to charge top dollar for it. As it is, released in 2016, it's a pretty comprehensive and competent collection of keyboard instruments. Most likely the pianos won't be my go-to patches, but the toy and electronic keyboards will be, so it's pretty good to have them all housed under one roof. The main thing I want to end on with Keyscape is that I just wanted to sit down and play it, tweaking the settings and coming up with kind of crazy ways to manipulate the sounds in Omnisphere. And when it comes down to it, isn't that really the point? Simply the fact that I wanted to noodle away for hours with the product really should speak for itself. I do give Keyscape by Spectrasonics a thumbs up. Some really nice bargains in this week's show. The first one is a real cheapie from Function Loops. It's Intergalactic Cinematix. There's 720 megabytes of content here, and it's all based around kind of cinematic sound design. You've got 101 atmosphere loops, 67 effects patches, 25 drum loops, 61 sequencers, and that makes up 254 files in total. Normally around $30, but they're currently flogging it for $5, so get in there while that deal lasts. The next deal via VST Buzz is the live drum bundle from Audio Animals. Just briefly about this, it's been specifically put together for VST Buzz, and it contains almost 12,000 drum samples. These are in WAV and 22 different contact patches too. It runs in at 9GB uncompressed, and at the moment there's 80% off. It's running at €29.99. I mentioned Spitfire Audio's Tundra in the last Samplecast, and I did notice that they've added a couple of new Labs instruments to their selection online. Now, the Labs instruments that they do, there's quite a few on there, and they're only £2 each, and that £2 they put to charity. They've raised several £1,000s doing this, so good on Spitfire Audio. The new instruments here are Permafrost strings, that's the most recent one. You've also got Trumpet Fields and Henson's Frozen strings. They're so cheap, head over to the Spitfire Labs website and you'll be able to download those and contribute to charity too. Make yourself feel a little bit better. This week's tip is a fab little short tip to get your tracks feeling as human as possible. So this is something I do all the time to add humanization to my tracks, which are pretty strictly quantized, and this is a good example. We've got staccato strings and other instruments playing on 8th notes, some on 4th notes, various things, but they're all quantized. And I don't want to bother having to go into the notes, start moving them around and adding humanization there. So all I want to do is add humanization to the whole track. So we open the tempo, and it's at 100 BPM this whole track at the moment. And I'm just going to click through and add loads and loads and loads of tempo nodes, pretty much randomly. And then I'm going to pull some of these up a couple of BPM, some of them down, not too much. Just keep moving them around. And when this plays through in the track, you're going to not hear the tempo changes, but it's going to add a little bit of subtlety to the track and a little bit of extra humanization. So let's play that through now, and I'm just going to turn off the toms. You'll see why in a minute. You can already hear that sounds a little bit more human. Now there's a problem with anything that's looped like these toms are, in that all the messing around with the BPM is going to mess up the timing of that loop. So all you have to do is make sure that you've got your time stretching turned on, and you can use whichever version of time stretching you prefer, and then that will keep those in time as well. Try that on your own tracks and see if it works for you. Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. There'll be one more show next week, and hopefully, if I can pull it off, a really exciting competition too. You can reach us in all the normal ways. You can see on the screen there exactly what I'm talking about. Also head over to the Samplecast website for more information, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye now.